Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fight for Liberty show. Tonight, we are going live with a really special event that I've been excited for a couple of weeks, trying to get these people together and in the same quote unquote room and just to kind of share ideas and have an awesome conversation. So I will bring them on the screen one by one. We have a couple people that will be trickling in and out throughout the evening. But to start out, we have my good friend who went to church with, has worked in multiple campaigns on the ground as a foot soldier, as well as some high-level coordination stuff. Adeline, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
Next up, we have Valerie Sarwark, at-large member of the LNC and multiple-time guest on the show and one of my absolute favorites. So Valerie, thank you so much for coming back.
Oh, thanks for having me again.
And last but not least, Gabrielle Cordova, who just got elected to the executive committee in the New York State Libertarian Party. She is also the secretary of the Libertarian Party of Queens. So, Gabby, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
All right, so I wanted to start off, especially with Addie and Gabby, because you guys haven't been on the show yet. With just kind of like a high-level overview of how long you've been kind of liberty-minded and what brought you to that kind of ideal. So, Gabby, you want to go first?
Sure. So I always like to say that I became a libertarian when I received my first paycheck. But really, I looked at it and I didn't understand why the money that I earned wasn't going into my bank account. So I went to my father, who is a libertarian, and he explained it to me, explained taxes to me and all that, and just explained the libertarian ideology to me. And it made sense. And since then, I've been involved with our local Queens Libertarian Board. I'm the secretary there. And recently I was elected to the Judicial District 11 for the state committee. And just last weekend, I was elected to be the member at large for the executive committee.
That was a great election. Congratulations again, by the way.
Thank you.
That was a fun meeting to be a part of, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely think that, the first real hit of seeing taxes come out of your paycheck is a trigger moment for a lot of people. Taxes, when they're just kind of this idea, are great. As a kid, you're like, oh, this is the way we pay for things. Okay. And then once it's actually your money and you remember earning it and then you watched it disappear without knowing where it went, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yep.
What about you, Addie?
Well, I had been interested in politics ever since I can remember. I was that crazy first grader that made my parents turn on the State of the Union, loved watching C-SPAN. I was just totally fascinated by the entire process, really. But what really actually captured my imagination as I was growing up was just the idea of statesmanship, reading about, just limited government, representative people, just the very unique aspect of the republic that we live in. And I'm currently a registered Republican. I've lived in Republican districts and worked on many Republican campaigns. And libertarianism has always been that side of conservatism that I didn't know a lot about. But as I traveled around the country and worked with people from all sides of the spectrum on campaigns, I met libertarians, and what really is making me very interested about them is providing choice, providing choice for our elected officials, providing choice for voters. And I think that's really healthy in our republic, and I think it's very necessary. I also go back to the words of George Washington, who warned us that parties were going to be one thing that would challenge our liberty the most. And so right now we're in a two-party system that's really started since the Federalists and Anti-Federalists went at each other. But I think now we're in a unique place in time in history. We have social media, we have very good ways of interacting with the constituencies, like very directly. And so I think that the Libertarian Party is a very good party to watch, and very exciting about its future because of all its opportunities it will have, kind of collecting voters from all sides into a party that I think could be a really big tent party about liberty, about fighting for people just to have government out of their lives and to be able to make the choices that they know are best for their individual scenarios. So that's my history with politics and libertarian movement.
All right. It's interesting that you bring up social media, because that's one of the topics that I wanted to talk about. I figured probably a little bit later, but I'll bring it up now because we've seen this rise of social media and technology, and it's definitely made a lot of things better in life. Even within the liberty movement, we're able to do stuff like this. We're able to talk to people on Twitter. I've met and recruited dozens of people over the last couple of weeks through Twitter and Facebook alone. But we've also seen like a definitive downfall in society over the last couple of years that's pretty equally linkable to social media. So I'm curious y'all's opinion on how do we interact on social media and utilize technology to the best of our ability without like getting sucked into that Twitter shitstorm that does exist. I'm curious if any of you guys have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I guess I'll take a first stab at that, but that's something I have actually thought a lot about during this just climate with the riots and protests that we saw throughout the summer. And it's become such an important issue to talk about as we see just the censorship that is happening on these platforms. I would say that no one has ever won or made a good argument on social media in terms of, I think, engaging in the comment section. But one of the things I really do try to keep in mind is who's reading your posts, what's your audience, and really crafting and thinking ahead of time of the things that you want to post, and being nowadays heavily researched before you post something, just to try to get, some of the friends on your feeds that might not be involved on your side of the aisle or in your sphere of politics to at least see additional content, things that they're not able to get on the mainstream media. So I think that we still hopefully live in an environment where that's possible, but it can definitely be pretty challenging, as we've seen in the last few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. It definitely seems to be getting worse, not better. Yeah, I've seen like I said, there's that obvious advantage to being able to connect with people, but we're drawn to the game that social media is of trying to get followers and trying to get likes, and there's the algorithms work the way that they do for a reason, because people are more likely to engage with things that they dislike or disagree with. You get more comments on more controversial post because people like to argue with you, and then you get to argue with them back, or other people argue with them, and then you have hundreds of comments. Where you post a picture of your dog or something like that, maybe you'll get a "oh, he's cute" comment, but nobody's going to reply to that comment. Nobody's going, "no, he's not, that's an ugly dog." There's no back and forth involved in the comments of a like popular or positive post. So we're drawn to start fights. We're drawn to post snippets that are going to make people go after us so that we can defend our like one random sentence. I've done that a couple of times. I'm super guilty of that, especially on Twitter. I posted the other day, caring about the nuclear family doesn't make you alt-right, period. Like, send tweet, just because, I knew that it would get a bunch of people to react, and actually got like 75 new followers within a couple of hours of posting that, and the gigantic engagement that I got on that, thousands of likes, literally almost 250 replies, because it was playing their game and not for the better. Like, this was, lots of divisiveness going on in the comments. I didn't win anyone over, didn't convince anyone that that my point was correct, just got into a bunch of arguments.
Yeah, the other day I posted on my official page about school choice because, I homeschooled my kids last year, but I've said it 1,000 times, not my favorite thing, but I'm totally into school choice. And I came to that more of a strong feeling about being so pro school choice after not liking the way that homeschooling was going for us. And it was me. It wasn't the kids. It wasn't the curriculum. It wasn't anything. It was just something that everybody has their strengths. And I recognize that. And I felt guilty, especially in a libertarian concept where everybody's telling you, you have to homeschool. It's so good for you, get out of school, whatever. And so I didn't want to tell anybody that I didn't like it. And so when anybody would ask me, I was like, oh, it's going well. And it was making me crazy. And that was not fair. And so I kind of made a post about it and kind of opened my heart up. But some of the comments were like, oh, but did you try this? But did you try that? And I was like, no, this is not an anti-homeschooling post. This is a pro-school choice post. And what I'm telling you is that don't feel guilty about if you don't like the school that your kids are in, or if you don't like homeschooling, or if you don't like the charter school or whatever. Be happy with the choices that you have and find the one that is the best fit for your family, for your kids. And so there was people that were saying things, and I heart reacted all of them and didn't engage, and that's how I do mine.
I like that. Heart react and disengage.
Yeah.
So we have our next guest has joined us, candidate for New York City Mayor on the Libertarian line, Miss Stacey Pressman. Stacey, welcome back to the show.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hi.
Hey, Stacey.
Nice to meet you all. I was trying to get on before, and it was hard to get on.
Yeah, I know. StreamYard is a great system, but every once in a while it likes to be glitchy and mess me up. But it's very cost effective and very good. So I have very few complaints. For the amount that I pay, I can't really demand much more.
No, it's great. It's great. It's great to be here. I actually love StreamYard. It's just I hate my computer, so
I do feel that.
I'm aggressive today. I feel very aggressive. Extremely aggressive.
We're discussing technology, actually, and the problems and benefits that it can have in society. So we're talking about, how to be able to use social media and other forms of technology to the best of our ability without kind of getting dragged into the shit storm that is Twitter and Facebook.
Right. Let me make this large. I grew up. I mean, I don't know how old you guys are. I grew up without technology. I mean, not really. Like my first 30 years of life, maybe 35. Maybe 30 years of life. I didn't really use technology. I didn't have an email account that I really used till I was like 28, maybe. No, 29 or 30. I didn't really engage with email. That's how old I am. So, I have mixed feelings. I think it's amazing, particularly during this pandemic, but it also, I feel like it's a way to like detach from reality a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
And human contact and like soul connection and things like that.
Yeah, it definitely is a falsified version of human interaction. Mm-hmm. And we all, especially during the quarantine, we were quick to find virtual ways to fill the holes in our lives. We were doing like church virtually and Bible studies and, game nights and all of these things virtually. And, finding people on social media that I didn't have on social media prior because we weren't hanging out as much. And we all kind of like got okay with that replacing actual human interaction with virtual human interaction. And that's not actually okay, because it's not what real life is like. Even this would be completely different if we were all sitting in the same room.
We're sitting together in the studio, engaging, having wine and coffee, whatever you drink. I miss that. I did so much radio in my life, and I miss going into there's something really exciting about walking into a studio and having the guests and having your co-host or your host be there and just be like connecting with new people that you don't know and really having a conversation with real people in the room, and rather than looking at your boxes, which I don't mind. You guys are all beautiful people, but I just miss like touching you, and
Yeah.
being like connected. And I personally grew up like that. I grew up in live theater. I grew up in motivational speaking, talking to people in real life and connecting with them, looking into their eyes and like feeling their soul. I'm an energy person. I feel people's energy. So I miss that. Like I miss that.
And I think, Stacey, to your point, I mean, that is so important, and probably really important when you are running, as you're running for your position. But I think that, a lot of politics these days, at least at the federal level, is a lot of that kind of social media buzz following type of things. And it's really not healthy in terms of like a representative. I'm thinking of like, AOC, who is just, I mean, really a lot of these younger freshmen, Congress people are just, they're basically just Instagram or Facebook media famous, and then they use that to leverage their political career. But I think that's where we have such a great opportunity, as is a time where the federal government is becoming increasingly gridlocked. I think the libertarian idea is to get involved in your communities, to get involved into the local government. And that doesn't need a Facebook following. That doesn't need high Twitter accounts. It needs the energy. It needs looking people in the eyes. And that's how politics, that's how representing the constituents has been done for hundreds of years. And I think that when we get off social media, it's actually probably going to liven up our candidates and actually contribute to a better process.
Well, we're working on, actually, this is exciting. I'm excited. We're going to be doing a rally to open up New York. Suggested by my friends that they're comedians and musicians in probably Times Square or Union Square, depending on. This is gonna. We have to speak to you guys, and I hope you all can come if you're in New York, because it's going to be really exciting. And because we've been locked down, obviously, and just as artists, forget about just the financial burden. The creative burden is killing us, killing all my friends. Like, there are people going, I remember back when I was doing stand-up last year around this time, touring, and I was in New York all the time, a lot, and I would see my friends going from spot to spot just for no money, like just to express and do their stand-up, or musicians working at a gig and for tips. And like, even just that is something that I miss as both an audience member and as a performer. And it's horrible for the spirit of our city and our, but this like pandemic has gotten up to here with me now. It's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends that are, like professional buskers and just, play music on the street.
Tell them to come.
There's no one on the street.
Tell them to come to the rally. We're going to have like well-known comics and musicians, and I'm so excited about it because I think it's important that we have our voices heard, because so many businesses have definitely gone out, and artistic businesses, the businesses that weren't necessarily touristy, like those small theaters, or like the little cafe that has a guitar player. So if you guys play guitar or sing or do any kind of poetry, come to this rally. I think it's important.
I don't sing or do poetry. I just write political speeches.
That's
so.
fine. You can write. You can help me write the political speech, David.
Yeah.
When is the rally? When is the rally?
Like, I have that kind of mouth, so I have to curb that, because I come from like dick jokes. I mean, all intents and purposes, I come from dick jokes, and I did come from a dick. At some point, I guess, but I come from this like kind of warped sense of humor. And now I'm in the political sphere, debating against Eric Adams and Milo Wiley and probably Andrew Yang. And, I have to keep it 100, but I don't want to like not be myself either. So that's been something I'm excited about doing. But you know what? Let's change the political sphere. It doesn't have to be so PC. I don't mean PC like not hurting other people's feelings. I mean PC, but not like really saying what you feel, because this is sort of like political speak that people do, and I don't like it. I never did. I didn't like it when I did speaking for colleges either, so I don't like it as a politician.
Yeah, luckily this show is someplace where you don't have to act like a politician all the time, even though most people...
Hi, Gabrielle. I met Gabriella, right? I met you.
Hi. Even though most of the people on this show are politicians, we don't act like it.
No, libertarians don't. That's the thing, and I think this is the new realm. I think the party needs to just expand into every aspect, because people are not taking it anymore. Like they don't know which way to turn. They're just not taking it anymore. Both sides of the political spectrum. They just show it differently, I believe. So I agree that we just need to like be the power to the people, like the whole stock market thing that just happened, and people feeling disempowered. Like they just don't. They want to find power in themselves, and not in a negative way, just to show that look, fuck you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think what happened over the last couple of weeks, we're definitely seeing a growth in not necessarily the Libertarian Party, but just the fundamental ideals that bring people to the Libertarian Party. So, it takes a little bit. It's a movement, and it's a life path, and it's a growth. We all were statists once, Okay, maybe Valerie, you're perfect.
I'm
All right.
kidding. I'm kidding.
But yeah, I think that's been one of the things that I've talked about a lot lately, especially with new people to the party. They encounter someone or they hear something that they don't understand, and they'll DM me on Twitter or something like that and ask me about it. I'm like, is this what libertarianism is? I hear that question a lot, and it's like yes and no is the answer. It's like yes, that's the end goal. If it's something like completely open borders or something like that, or some almost anarchic kind of like end goal stance of ours, like completely end the Fed or abolish the IRS, something like that.
Yeah, do that, please.
Yes, of course. Yes, that is what we want. But you don't have to be completely gung ho abolish the IRS to be a libertarian or to get engaged or to vote for one of us. Show up to meetings, and we'll eventually teach you why. Right, we'll eventually teach you why we need to abolish the IRS, but it's a learning curve, and we get that.
Yeah, we had some friends in Phoenix that were, our kids played on the youth soccer club. They were like 3 and 5 years old at the time. And so they played on the club, Parks and Rec team. And one of our friends was like, you guys are libertarians. How do you feel about your kids being in a city sponsored, league that you're paying, your taxes are paying for this park? Do you feel okay about that? And I was like, I mean, we could start our own private soccer club for 3 to 5 year olds, and that would be fine too. But our taxes at that point, even as a libertarian, our taxes are already being taken to support this program. So we might as well take advantage of the separated cost of it, right? But I think, Dave, the last time we talked, we all want it to just end right now. If like we could push a button and everything would be normal and everything would, like the whole world wouldn't collapse if we were completely libertarian, that would be great. But it's not like rip off a Band-Aid. It's chip, 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 chip. And, sorry, my kids are playing club soccer with the Parks and Rec team. That doesn't make me not a libertarian. But that person also recently said that she wants everybody to get like $2,000 a month until the pandemic is over. And I said, well, heart reacting, disengage, right?
Heart reaction, disengage.
I'm definitely going to steal that tactic.
Let go, let God. I can't deal with that. I don't even know what to say to you if you're going to tell me that.
Is your city? Are you in New York? Or are you in Arizona? Right, you're in Arizona.
We're in New Hampshire now. We moved here in 2019.
New York's a very different animal right now because everything is closed. So
I was there a couple months ago.
Tough. I mean, we're messed up. Like we have no, unless you have like a business that's thriving, you have no income. Like the day jobs are shut down. So what are we supposed to do? Our government took that away, but yet now I have to go pay taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The little money I earned from last.
And there's like $1 billion right now in back rents. I read.
Mm-hmm.
That's
we have
crazy.
to fix that. The city
It's
needs
so sad what has happened. I visited the city. I lived in the city for 6 years, and I just left right before the pandemic. But I visited in December, and it was sad to see. I mean, all the restaurants closed.
It's horrible. It's horrible, Addie. I mean, Brooklyn and Queens, where Gabrielle, you're in Queens, right?
I'm in Queens. Yeah, I'm in Queens.
So it's not so bad. Like the boroughs aren't as bad as Manhattan, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn, where I am, South Brooklyn, it's sort of normal, except the restaurants are closed, but they didn't shut down. Like our hairdressers are open and our things are open, but like my gym is open, but the restaurants aren't open, which is really weird. People are just sweating and breathing, even in the like. But yet I can't sit down 8 feet next to each other and have like sushi. Like,
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we've definitely seen throughout this whole thing that, politicians are throwing shit to the wall to see what sticks, and, then trying to like back up what they said because they don't want to look stupid. And, honestly speaking, I don't know how different I would have handled the situation. If everyone's freaking out that they're all going to die and someone says, hey, restaurants look like they're spreading it, and I say, okay, we can do a thing to make people feel better. I obviously, as a libertarian, wouldn't have just like swept my hand and shut down a whole bunch of restaurants, but I definitely would have, the mask suggestion, like, and how hard they pushed it there for a little while until they kind of eased up on it, make people feel like they're doing something to help
to do something. Like, when people feel helpless, they want something. Well, maybe if I put the mask on, 20% of the virus won't contaminate you or me or whatever, like, or 80%, or some, like, people want to feel they're in control, because we feel all out of control right now. Emotionally, we're frustrated. I mean, different parts of the world feel it worse. I know New York City particularly is really impacted. So any little thing that we can do, we're like, sure, do it, and then some people are like, no, you take away my freedom. I mean, it's like, to me, it's like the mask thing is like, if it works, it's not such a big deal. To me, it doesn't feel that way. I'm like, so I'll wear it when I'm near you. When I'm not near you, I take it off.
Yeah.
That's how.
And I think that the interesting part, and I think the concerning part, was that instead of relying on that Americans generally want to do what's right and they want to be civically minded, there was this kind of turn to autocratic, like, it's the law, respect, mask up, no mask, no entry. And here in Michigan, even I saw signs that said mask up, it's the law. And I'm like, do you mean it's an executive order that is issued by the state's health department? Because this isn't a law. And I think that's where you saw the turn to it being politicized, because, I mean, for the first real time in my life, in my adult life, I felt like that liberty was actually kind of under assault, because it was this, we're the government, you must do this, instead of a community-based approach where, okay, I understand the mask, I'm going to do it out of respect, but it just became a way for politicians to flex their muscles.
I thought they could have made it as, can you please wear a mask? Be respectful to your neighbors and yourself. This is why we're going to wear a mask, and give the facts. Because I'm very science-based. I've always been very science-based. Even though I was a theater major, I had a science background, and I won the Earth Science Award. I wanted to be a doctor, but I had ADD, and that didn't happen. But anyway, I became a dictator. So, and now a politician. And I believe that, I think that if, I think what happened in the beginning, like, they were like, masks are ineffective, and like Fauci would say one thing, and I thought the scientists should be separate from the federal government, first of all. There should be no influence in government and science. Like, just church and state should be separate. Science and government should be separate, personally. And then without any influence from political parties or lobbying groups, the scientists cohesively should, and a bipartisan group of scientists should get together and then create a policy, and then try to get it funded from bipartisan, whatever it needs to be vaccines or an implementation of some sort of treatment. But I don't believe that politicians should have any say in science, because they're not scientists.
No.
No. You agree with that, ladies and gentlemen?
Except for the few that are, like Rand Paul.
All right, maybe one or two. But basically, I think that it should, even if you are, I think it should be I think it should be a bipartisan group of scientists without political agendas that just want to make people healthier. Period. End of sentence.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my utopia. That's Pressman's utopia.
I mean, in New Hampshire, we have voted by whoever, the most libertarian governor in the United States, Chris Sununu, and people were fighting the masks before he put a mandate on it. And as a libertarian, I was like, this is weird, because there's not a mandate, but they were like, you're taking away my freedom. But nobody was saying, like, you have to wear a mask. You have to wear a mask. Yeah. He didn't do an executive order on the masks until, I think December. And that's like 9 months into it. There was businesses that were asking people, please don't come in without a mask, but they're not going to kick you out. It's New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Nothing shut down except for those 2 weeks where we were supposed to flatten the curve. That was it. Everything stayed open. Some businesses chose to close until whatever time, like some of them were closed until they could do outdoor seating, whatever. But nobody was forcing a mask mandate until, I want to say it was December, and now it's extended to March. But they're going to his house right now and protesting on his lawn and saying, you're taking away my freedom. But at the same time, we were at like 80%, I would say 80% following guidelines without a mandate. And so when he did that, it kind of made people a little pissed off. So
it creates there's always a backlash. If someone tells you to do something, there's always going to be a group that says, no, I'm not doing that. It's psychological. It's psychology.
Oh yeah.
No one used psychology correctly. I don't believe in this whole pandemic. It's like, you know what? We suggest you wear a mask because if you feel your freedoms are being taken away, have you ever been on a ventilator for 3 months? Because my dad wasn't very free and he died. So, that not from that, but to watch someone die on a ventilator is horrible.
Yeah.
And that's actually not even the right treatment until the very end, by the way.
Right.
I've done all my research on it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Gabby, because where you live in Queens is kind of like a meeting of the red and the blue zones of Queens.
Yes.
So I want to hear, since we're talking about the masks and stuff, how is that? And was there like that line that's almost visible when you're walking through your neighborhood? Did the mask mandate kind of have that same effect where like as soon as you get into red zone, people weren't wearing them?
Yeah, it's really interesting that you point that out. And now that I'm thinking about it, it does depend where in Queens you're walking. Actually, I remember early when the masks did become a mandate. And it's funny because before they didn't, we were at a CVS, and in front of the CVS, it said, you must wear a mask. It's the law. And it wasn't yet. And my mom actually took out her pen and she crossed it out and she said, no, it's not. She did that. No. And then literally like,
Your mom is the best.
The one on Queens Boulevard?
So it was like a week. What was that?
The one on Queens Boulevard?
The one on Queens Boulevard. Yep.
Yeah.
7th Avenue, Queens Boulevard. Yeah.
My neighborhood is similar to your neighborhood. I live in Gravesend, which is red and blue. It's like right by Staten Island, but not quite. So we have a lot of Russian immigrants that are kind of red, literally red. And then we have like everybody else, and they're kind of mixed. So it's
it's a mixed bag for sure. And I mean, there have been times like when I'm walking outside and I'm not walking near anybody, I don't wear a mask.
No, me
and that's my personal choice because my body, my choice, right?
Yeah. So I have a real exactly. I think that it's like I don't. If no one's near me, why do you wear a mask? It's like driving in a car with a mask on. Like it's crazy.
I know. Yeah, that's crazy.
Those are people.
But there have been times where, like, someone would walk by me and almost shove me out of the way, up to 6 feet. But it does depend. It's crazy. I mean, it's insane. And then there are parts of Queens where, like, you'll see people, not wearing it, or they're just chill. And you can. It just depends. So that's interesting. You brought that up, but it's true.
Yeah, I guess
so.
Neighborhood.
It's a mix.
I don't think people understand the masks.
Yeah.
I think people think it's like they don't understand why we're wearing them. A lot of people think it's
and now they're saying we're too.
Nope, not doing
that.
I'm
no,
sorry.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I couldn't breathe the other day. I was shopping. I was like, I can't breathe. I have to leave. I have to leave the store. I had it like I'm done. It was too much. I was like in the store for an hour. I can't just. I miss relaxing, going to a store, looking at the different products, whatever. Like I like to go to CVS.
Taking your time. Yeah.
Missing everything.
I miss
it's like I have to have a list, and I have to get those things and get out. Like there's no shopping around for me anymore. You just can't breathe. I do like.
And I have an elderly mother, and she like loves to go to the supermarket. And I'm like, and it's one of her big, things to do. She's 86, and so I'm like. I take her once in a while, but now we're doing like the Amazon or delivery. I don't want to take, I'll go myself. It's so cold right now, but I feel like I just feel like I want things to be normal, a little normal. The summer felt more normal. I don't know for you guys, but the summer felt a little normal.
No, the summer felt like just, you know, maybe we're not seeing as many friends, but like we were still having cookouts and things. But
Yeah.
We went for hikes. We tried to be outside, go for walks. A lot. Yeah.
Well, I think there was a lot of
Now
fear
it's tough.
too.
Now we feel
like a lot of fear stoked by people in power, primarily because, as we know, in historically, like whenever there's an emergency, there's definitely a big excuse to grab power and to exert control. And I did feel like in the beginning of the pandemic, it was somber, there was caution, but it then just became like we're outside, like we're out projecting the risk that is actually that we're being under when we go out into public. I mean, it was more risky to drive a car pre-pandemic than it was to be out as a healthy, 25 through 50-year-old in the pandemic. So just this desire to have zero risk instead of letting people choose, what risk they would want to accept.
Exactly. I agree, Addie. And also people are getting they're getting immunizations. Shots, immunization.
Yeah.
I always forget my words. I'm like immunization. I say it 3 times. Immunizations. And so some people are going to be immunized, hopefully at least 95%, supposedly what the statistics say, if you want. And then but you could get it again. I have a friend that got it twice. My friend Howie had it twice.
Oh.
He had it, the first time he was very sick. He lost like all these family members, which was really horrible. And then the second time he just had it, he had it in the beginning of the pandemic, and then he had it again. Because he felt crappy, but it's only been like, it was a week and it was done. It was like, so I think that way, I think people's immune systems won't go into overdrive because they're used to it if they had it, but you can get it twice. That's why. But so I guess as people get immunized, maybe they'll be more, and more, I guess if people decide to get more tests. I haven't really had a test yet. I'm afraid I don't want to I'm such a baby with a doctor.
Yeah, I had to get tested when I came back to New York State. They armed National Guardsmen were at the airport when I flew into the state. Made me sign a little thing saying that I would go get a test, and then I did. And it was negative, which blew me away, honestly, because I worked in 14 states in 2020. I talked to, not over exaggerating, probably about 250 to 300,000 people, like face to face. Many of them I shook their hand. Like if anyone were to have gotten COVID, it would make sense for it to be me.
You should get an antibody test.
I really should, but I do want to turn the focus to the comments real quick because there's some questions. First of all, Mr. Donnelly, Kim Ruff will be joining us later. She is putting her wonderful children to bed at the moment, thanks to the time difference. So she will be joining us in a little bit. And you also mentioned Alexander Torrey, and unfortunately, I booked this live stream and asked everyone to be on it before I found out about Alex, and I was like way late to the party on that one. Otherwise I would have definitely loved to have had her on, but I honestly just found out about her maybe like a week ago. But she's an awesome person, and I would love to have her on the show for sure. But yeah, it still definitely is blowing me away that how many of my friends, especially in the political sphere, have continued to test negative. A lot of companies are making people get tests like every week or two. I worked with a couple of Democratic organizations, and they were really heavy about it. And on the top of their shit, I'll give them a lot of credit that the people that I know that I worked with on the Biden campaign, they were really keeping their stuff orderly and making sure that, if anyone tests positive, they know who worked with them, and that they were paying people to not canvass for a couple of days. They were paying people to go get their tests. They were really on top of their stuff. I think a couple of other organizations could have learned from that, because there were some huge spreaders in other campaigns. So But for the most part, a lot of my friends, and I think, it definitely has to have something to do with just the youthfulness. And, if you're working on a campaign, you're probably a pretty active person. You're knocking on 250 doors in a day.
You're
Walking
outside
13 miles.
Everyone's been talking about vitamin D and how important that is.
I take a lot
I
of
got 20 shades darker in Michigan.
You're
That's shocking
outside.
because we don't get sunlight for 2 months here.
I know. It's
Well, I
Where
was
in
there
Michigan
for
are
the 1
you?
month that you do get sunlight, and that was July. I was there from the 4th of July to
Yeah.
Election Day in August.
Oh.
And I lost about 25 pounds in 6 weeks.
Oh my God. How did you even keep your bones?
No.
Well, I put
I'm
on
not body shaming
I put on about 40 during the 3 months of quarantine. I was at my lightest adult weight ever in New Hampshire working for Tulsi Gabbard. I was down to like 160, about 175, which is like for my height about normal. Then when I got to Michigan, I had just broken 200 for the first time in my entire adult life. So I just sat around, did nothing, and just ate food for 3 months straight. It was awful. I felt like shit. Luckily, I spent the next 9 months walking 5 to 10 miles a day, almost every day for 9 months straight. So we're back down to the reasonable numbers.
Yeah, I know. It's been a rough time with the sitting home doing nothing, and
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Queens. I know it's. I feel like we're out in canvas with people. I'm really excited about that.
We don't have indoor dining, but our gyms are open.
Right.
So I have been going to the gym, and I go like twice a week. I do that. I do yoga. I'm like, what else is there to do at night? We can't go out for a nice dinner.
Yeah.
Right.
I miss that.
My husband and I would either order in, which we're done with. So.
I'm doing an event in Staten Island. I'm the Staten Island LP convention, and I'm actually going there, and I'm just so excited. I'm getting out of the house and meeting people. I'm like so excited about it. It's like getting to see people around. I met you at that event, the other event, but the restaurant was closed. We had to be in a section of the restaurant, which is crazy.
Yeah, I know.
It's like you can't win. It's like whatever you do, it's like it probably would have been safer for me to sit have the table open and then have the event. But they didn't open the restaurant, so we were all in one little area. So it really was just a BS.
Yeah.
In terms of how they're Cuomo's gonna have. I'm gonna have a talking with him. You and I are gonna have a disagreement.
Mr. Emmy winner, and
Oh my God.
Right.
Just our Lord and Savior when it comes to saving Americans from the pandemic.
Right.
He had a little bit of an ego.
Blatantly murdered 200,000 elderly people.
Yeah.
And
it was quite interesting that a couple of days after the election, he announced almost a 180 in terms of COVID policy and keeping things shut. And it was just I have a friend that and then they're saying it's the science supports us, and cases are the same or above. It was very frustrating to see how politicized this all was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, LA is having a very rough time of it.
Yeah.
Los
And they've
Angeles
been shut down forever.
Forever. My friend is like, I can't take it again anymore.
Yeah.
She's from New York. She's like, I can't take another second of it. I can't. It's like I've been shut down for months. I mean, months. Do you remember in the beginning of it in March? It was even that was scary because I came back. I was traveling like a lot, traveling, and then I came back and I was like, my friends were giving me these texts. Oh, China closed down their factories. I'm like, oh, China's back. I didn't feel connected to it. And then I was back for a week, and then I went out on a date with my ex-boyfriend to Grimaldi's Pizza, which is delicious, by the way.
I love Grimaldi's.
It's so delicious.
Yes.
I can't wait to be back in New York.
I need to go. I know. I need to.
And it was really apocalyptic. Because this is the first time you saw gloves and like masks. I was like, what's going on? And I did a joke on the plane coming home. This is before. I'm like, oh, not wearing a mask on a plane is like raw dogging during the AIDS era. I was like talking about that. People were laughing, and it was a big joke, and no one had been dying. No one was dead yet. So I I was okay politically at that point. But my gay friends loved it, and it was just wonderful. Because I lived through AIDS. I didn't live. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't have AIDS, but I had AIDS class in like the 80s. I had AIDS school. I literally had AIDS. We had a day of AIDS. Like all you did was learn about AIDS in like 1985. I'm like, I wasn't even having sex yet, but there were condoms, and there was like, I'm like bananas, and it was crazy. So I was like, oh, this is really weird. And then it was very politically incorrect not to be with a man or whatever you're with, or women. Well, mostly, penises, whatever. But at the time, to having any kind of contact without a condom, even like lesbian sex. So it was very politically. I don't know if anyone remembers that in New York. It was very politically incorrect. And condoms were everything. But now like the younger people, they're like, I don't use a condom. I don't care. Anyway, that's, because they have the AIDS pills now. You can cure AIDS. So it changed. I saw the world change, in that way. That now no one's afraid of AIDS. I mean, no one wants it, but no one's like, they're
not like it's not a death wish, right?
So,
it's
right.
not the same fear
risk an orgasm. They won't risk an orgasm for fear of AIDS, but that's what my experiences are with my friends. So anyway, a little too much information for the mayor. But now I see the similarities. We're going to have a COVID day. They're going to where am I? Until we have a cure, and then no one will give a crap, and we'll be okay. But I think COVID goes away. AIDS doesn't. So that's good. So I think it's important to like. I don't know what my point was. I got lost in the whole AIDS. Oh, we're coming home. I didn't take it seriously at all. I thought who are these crazy people with masks on? I thought they're probably used to wearing masks from the countries they're from because they have pollution. That's what I thought in my head, but I didn't realize a deadly disease coming. And I got strep throat anyway. But I always get strep throat. I had an incident. So we went to Grimaldi's Pizza. Back to that story. So I had to go back in my head. And it was apocalyptic, wearing masks, and I'm like, it wasn't enjoyable. Like this great pizza was not enjoyable because the person was wearing. It was like, and you had to see. They sat us like from a million tables from next. We're like looking at people. Do they look like they have COVID? We didn't.
It feels like you're in a surgery room, like an operation room.
Yeah, it's like
surgery's gonna be done. And you're like, and unfortunately, my grandma, she has early onset dementia, and in the beginning, she was like, "What is wrong with me? Why are all these people wearing masks and gloves? Like, what is wrong with me?" And my poor grandmother, I mean, she's doing okay now. She's starting to understand it because now it's becoming more of a long-term memory for her. But she misses like going out, seeing the other residents. They are an assisted living facility, and she misses going out, seeing other residents, having lunch with them, doing activities like bingo and horse racing and things like that.
My grandma's bingo so bad. It's so sad. Yes. Their mental health is deteriorating even worse. Like my grandma also has early dementia, and she's in assisted living. And at Thanksgiving, I left New England and took a risk. But we looked at the numbers and where my sister lived. My sister works from home. My brother-in-law is in the National Guard and works in some company that I can't talk about. And so we constantly tested, and she's home, and we both work from home. Our kids were in a school where we were already remote for the time being before that. And so we were like, okay, we are the most risky people here because we're still eating in restaurants because we can, right? But when we got down there, the case level down there in Virginia was much lower than it was at the time in New Hampshire. And so I said, if you guys don't want us to come, we're not coming. And they were like, no, it's okay. We trust you. You're doing the right thing. And then I was afraid to see my grandma. But I was like, she's 87 years old and she's got dementia and she lives in an assisted living and she has no idea what's going on. And she's mad. She can't play bingo. She can't go on her field trips. She can't eat lunch with her friends. And they just have them locked up in these rooms. Yeah. And so the 20 minutes that we can spend with them with a mask, even though I'm sure your grandma's the same way, Gabby, like,
down. Like, why am I wearing this? Like, I feel healthy. I'm fine. Like,
I'm like, Grandma, you have to. And then she's like, can I give you a hug? And I'm like, you're not allowed to hug me. I don't want to kill you. But they do the temperature test, they do everything. But she misses going. They would take them to the movies and they would take them out to the restaurant. And she just doesn't understand. They used to have therapy dogs come in, and they can't even like come with a dog. Like,
I think it's becoming cruelty to
it is.
Yeah.
It's prison. It's prison that we're paying for.
Yeah.
We're paying
That's
these
what she
Nana
says. She says prison has it better because prison gets visitors.
Yeah, and they can go outside.
Right.
Like,
I'm really
And
just
this
going to have a test before you know, at the site,
Yeah.
and then that's the end of it. Then you're fine. Yeah, I don't know why they're not doing that.
It's just this, again, this like zero risk mentality. Like if someone that is 82, 83 wants to take certain risks, especially for a holiday, it's like they as an individual with liberty and autonomy over their own body should be able to make that choice, because
Absolutely.
we're forgetting about all these ancillary deaths from overdoses and suicides and depression that is skyrocketing. And I'm sure the data will show all of these other deaths that are skyrocketing during COVID.
yes. My grandma said, I'm 87 years old. If I die tomorrow, it's okay.
At least I lived my life, to the fullest. At least I got to do the things I loved and see the people I love.
The people,
That's more important than
It's more quality over quantity. I mean, at this point, and who said you're going to die necessarily if you get it?
Yeah.
Have it
Yeah.
back.
Right. Yeah.
We have neighbors that lived. They're in their 80s.
We didn't bust her out of the home for Thanksgiving because if she was gone for more than four hours, they would make her self-quarantine in a different wing. So like she would be isolated even more for 2 weeks. And we were like, well, that's cruel. But at the same time, we're trying to explain to her, we're not taking you out of the home because we don't want it to be mean to you, but it's mean to you to know that we're all celebrating Thanksgiving and you're here eating like a swan dinner.
Yeah, I definitely have a benefit.
I feel bad, Mallory. It's horrible. Yeah. And
so bad.
Gabrielle, it's so bad. I mean, I
feel for you, Gabrielle. It's like,
I feel.
Yeah, you too.
My mom is that age, and she's like, fuck it. She wears a mask. She's like, I'm going to see my neighbors. I'm going to have Italian coffee across the street because I want to see my neighbors. And I'm like, go ahead, eat what you want. Eat fried chicken. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's funny. My grandma is very like the worst person in my family that I talk to when it comes to like just buying into everything that the news says. But it's been really amusing because neither of my grandparents on my dad's side like Trump at all, but they for some reason and it's actually kind of unlike them, but they seem to have bought into like the Fox side of the narrative on this one. And my grandma is definitely the kind of person that hear it once from the TV box must be true. And has been, every time she calls me, she's talking about like all of this bullshit and who's causing it, and why the masks don't work, why no one should get the vaccine. They're driving the 2.5 hours to our house to come like see us and hang out with their great grandkids. And I feel bad because like I kind of believe it more than they do, so I'm like in the exact opposite position of you guys where I'm having to be like no, like I like stop, but they know full well what they're doing. There's no confusion involved. It's just they fully believe that this is bullshit and don't care. And I'm kind of like, I feel a little bit bad that like I just got home like a few days ago from canvassing in Colorado where there was a huge hot spot, and then I come home and like 3 days later they come over before I'm able to get my test results, before I have any idea if like I'm just gonna kill my grandparents, and they're like, fuck it, I don't care, give me a hug. I'm like, I kind of care if I kill you, but okay.
Very, very much in the beginning. Oh, yes. Sorry. What are you gonna say, Marilyn?
Well, that's basically what we're saying. Like we want to care, but the grandparents are like, hey, what's it matter? I'm almost 90.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna spend my last days alone.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, I wouldn't want to spend my last days alone. Is that I have friends that are sick and they're old, young, and it's like, who the hell wants to live like that?
Yeah.
I can't live another day. Like, I mean, another week. I'm going like,
Hey.
I mean, I'm, you know, I'm like, I want to like go out. Like my friends like, you forget. Like my friends like, what are you doing this week? You going out? I'm like, where the fuck am I going? Like
The gym.
I'm gonna go to the. I'm gonna sit in a bubble outside. I don't know. Have you guys tried that? Do you guys have that in? Well, all our indoor dining is closed pretty much where I live.
Well, we have a restaurant named Jimmy's Roadhouse in rural Michigan, and they have stayed open the entire time. Their liquor license was revoked, and during when the riots were getting really bad, my friend's business in DC was burned twice, and I said, I'm done with this staying in. I drove 30 minutes to this restaurant. It was bustling, and the owner was coming around saying why he stayed open, and it was because he cared his workers. If they did not have they were gonna, they were out of work. It was one of the few places of business in this country town, and some people were wearing masks, others weren't, but there was no hot spot from it. It was all done very well, and it was showing us that you can stand up for your rights. He said people don't realize that the government, they only have power through the legislator. They can't just say things and it happen. So it's up to us as individuals to show the government that no, just because you say something doesn't in fact make it law. And that's the one thing through this whole scenario is we should look at the legislator. The legislator has done nothing during the pandemic because they're afraid of the politics of it. But where's Congress legislating this? Where's our state legislators legislating masks? Instead, they let the executive do it. I mean, it's crazy to live in a political climate where the founders thought that they were going to have to protect the from the executive, grabbing power. But right now, the legislator is just handing that power to the executive and saying, just do it.
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to do it.
I mean, things got really out of control, I think, in every part of the country.
Yeah.
Where we don't have, some people just don't have money coming in unless they have unemployment. Luckily they have that, which we pay into. It's not like we don't, pay into that. And what's going to happen with taxes and we were talking about taxes before, like you don't get your value for your taxes. It's like, it's robbery. Like if I pay taxes, but no one's giving me any good streets or my schools suck, it's a waste of money. It's like, where's that money going? We've been doing a deep dive in New York, by the way, and we've been reading all these different not proposals, these different laws and where the money is missing. Like we don't know where it is. We're looking for it. Literally during the campaign, I'm looking for New York's money, and a lot of it got lost.
No, and all those if you don't administer the COVID vaccine this way, and if you administer it this way, like that whole fining system was bizarre. Why not just let anybody who wants it get it and stop fining $1,100,000, whatever he was fining everybody? Like, get real.
And then they're throwing them away. They're throwing them away.
Yeah, they're throwing them away.
They're throwing them away, right?
Because there's this weird hierarchy of who qualifies based off of equity now. And so these things sit there because people that are closest to them can't get them, and then they just expire and they throw them away.
Yeah,
right. They expire very quickly, by the way. Like we've been trying to develop a vaccine plan for those who want it. Like I don't want to make it mandatory, but like my mom is 86. She does not want it. She's like, I don't take it the first year. I'm like, okay, mom. She's a tough bitch.
When she's 93, she can get it.
I don't I don't know how I feel. Like I don't know if I want to take it or not. I'm still on the fence. That's my opinion. Yeah. I'm not against vaccines. I've had vaccines.
Those who are elderly and high risk, they should get it first. Yeah. I'll be the last person online. I don't care, but those who really need it, that should be.
And that's because our marginal risk is so low as like younger with no health issues. Like so it's for us the benefit of getting a vaccine is a lot lower than the benefit of a 93-year-old with lung problems is.
Yeah. Right. I told people I would
ladies, we have our last member joining us, former Libertarian presidential candidate and current candidate for Arizona State Mine Inspector, Madam Kim Ruff. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Oh my goodness. Hi. You don't really have to introduce me as a former presidential candidate. I don't think it counts when you don't go the distance.
Well, as you were my first and favorite of the primary candidates, I'm going to continue to introduce you as former presidential candidate Kim Ruff, because I loved your campaign and your messaging, and I love Jo Jorgensen. She's awesome, and she did a fantastic job. But I am very glad that you were part of that race in the beginning. So I'm going to keep introducing you like that.
Well, thank you. Credit where credit is absolutely due, though. It was not just me. There were a whole bunch of wonderful activists that were pulling for us and making it happen. We had a really, really great team, and many of those people went on to work on other campaigns and do exceptional work. So nothing is achieved alone. We were lucky because we had such great people supporting us and helping elevate us.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely, we definitely saw that, I think, from the outside, of a centralized like message of camaraderie, the fact that you had a running mate from the beginning and that you guys were working together and working off of each other from the start, I think just kind of showed that to the people that were watching, that you guys had your shit together in a way that is a little bit natural for a libertarian campaign.
No, we have such an incredible brain trust in the Libertarian Party and the Liberty Movement. There's so many incredibly talented and gifted and intellectual people. So it really is just a matter of leaning on the subject matter experts and letting them do what they're so wonderful at. So that's really what was the unifying factor. Is we've worked with all these people for so long that we knew who was exceptional, and we staffed it out that way. And we didn't even do it alone just in the campaign. People outside of the campaign, including people in the LNC and in state affiliates, were incredibly supportive and collaborated with us as well. So it was an overall really exceptional experience. And I tell you, like, nothing will make you mature quite like running for office. Like your willingness to get into fights and scrapes and weigh in on stuff really goes down to a zero because you prioritize. So I think that was really good too. It was a very maturing experience.
For sure. Well, Valerie, I know you have to hop off here in a minute, so I just want to thank you before you leave for coming back on the show and providing your perspective. It's always a great time.
Yeah, thanks. I'll come on anytime you ask me.
I will definitely hold you to that, and I will get Nick his money. Tell him to like send me if he has Cash App or something like that.
He does. He just got it today, actually.
Nice. Okay, so yeah, send me his like Bitcoin wallet. I'll send.
You want to like tell everybody why you owe Nick money?
Oh yeah, I did a dumb thing.
We don't know.
I did a dumb thing with 3 individuals. I made an actual like thing of not calling the election at all, like publicly on the show or anything like that, or trying to say that I thought somebody was going to win. But I did make private bets with 3 individuals that Trump was going to win, and I obviously lost that bet. Nick Starwark is one of those people. So yeah, I owe him $10, and I will send
10 big ones.
But funny.
Have a great night.
You might get that.
Nice meeting you, Valerie.
It was so nice meeting you.
We'll see you next time. Do it again. It's fun.
This has been great. I'm having such a good time.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, I did. I should not have made bets, like cash bets. That was a very bad move. But
David, have you heard the election is not been certified properly? So you might get those numbers back.
Right. We're not going to know until March something or other. So don't exchange money just yet.
Yeah, when Nick messaged me earlier, and I definitely like took a pause, and I was like, I thought about arguing that point real quick. And I was like, nah, let's not do that. Especially not like in the DMs. Like if it was like on Twitter or something, like a public show, it would have been funnier. But like I'm not gonna get into that debate right now. But yeah, I've never been that wrong about I got a lot of the like outside states correctly in how I felt things were going to go, but states that I worked in went other ways than I thought. And you know, some states that I worked in on the presidential campaigns, you know, and like was actively talking to people about who they were going to vote for.
A lot.
I mean, I honestly felt Michigan. I didn't work on any campaigns during the general, but I went sign counting the couple of days before the election, and there was just so many. The Biden and Trump signs were 50-50. And I knew at that point that Trump was probably not going to win because it's much easier. Well, I mean, it's much easier to put a Biden sign out than it is a Trump sign. But I felt like he, being an incumbent, should have had way more than 50%, you know, out there. So
yeah, that's pretty atypical.
Yeah,
so.
It was and we live, and the thing was, as I was in a very conservative district, I'm like, if Biden is polling on my very unofficial survey, if Biden has 50, like 1-for-1 Trump signs in like a very conservative red place, I'm like, Trump's not winning the state.
Yeah.
Did red people win the other elections?
Yes. Yep. So
people
down about, yeah.
It wasn't about conservative. I think people stopped because I live in New York and it's been very heated. I know Trump. He was my landlord. He was in my house as a baby. I don't like him particularly at all as a person, as a human being. And so people that know him don't like him. Like I'm nothing political. They know him.
Yeah. Yeah. And they couldn't stomach it. So a lot of them either stayed home or they
and then I think a lot of real conservatives felt that he hijacked them. That's what I feel like. He didn't live conservative. Like Mike Pence plays it, you know, he's very Christian, right? That's his thing. And Trump went on that, and he's the farthest thing from that. If you know, I mean, he's not. That's just not what he is, you know. So it's like you can't, you know, people eventually catch on as well.
Yeah.
It's a very heated topic.
I will definitely always be blown away by the massive amount of very devout Christians that I know that thought that Trump was a Christian and a good Christian influence on the country and was going to bring us back from this terrible thing that Obama was. And I'm not going to defend Obama as a president at all, but as a Christian, you know, looking at the way he lives his life in public, you know, outside of what he did, murdering hundreds of millions of brown people, you know, the way that he acted as president was pretty upstanding. You know, there were very little scandals. There was very little stuff going on. You know, he wasn't cheating on his wife. His kids were great. I mean, he had 2 teenage daughters. The likelihood of either of them getting into trouble during his presidency was extremely high. None of them had nudes leaked or got caught at a party. None of that shit.
Well, I mean, he also had a very friendly media.
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
I mean, I would just say that, you know, even with, I know I've had people that have had personal interactions with Biden, and he's done, I mean, he can be a little weird. And so, but the media won't, I mean, the narrative is that, you know, Trump, or there was a boring presidency, was Obama, and, you know, he was just this, but I mean, when you have a whole media wing covering for you too, I'm guessing there's a few things in there that happened. Trump was just the first person to stumble over his own feet because he just broadcasted all of his thoughts. And
he couldn't control himself. He couldn't stop calling people ugly. He was like a road battle comedian. I mean, he should have gone into stand-up. He would have been a national headliner. I mean, he's funny. He's a funny guy, but you know, he can tell jokes. That's a good job.
Yeah. If he did not have a Twitter account, he would still be the president right now.
Oh man, I don't want to see that presidential library.
Very badly.
Lots of Playboy magazines and not much else.
It's a converted pigsty.
Every kind of person goes into politics, particularly someone like him. You know, I had friends that worked on The Apprentice, and I never heard a good word about them. You know, his sons are insane. The sons, I don't like to say. I don't like their take on the animals, the trophy killing and all that bothers me. I'm a big animal rights person, so like don't trophy hunt. It's like disgusting to me. To me, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't leave my javelina head. No, I'm just messing. I don't have one. I've never done that. But God, wouldn't that be a faux pas where you're like, oh.
Behind my
I'm just gonna like run away.
Yeah. Oh. One moment.
I'm not judgmental. I'm very non-judgmental, but I just like hate people like trophy hunt. It's like it's very like
It's wasteful.
It's wasteful and it's evil. I mean, I grew up actually. You say that, Kim, like my dad was in the meat market. He was a meat cutter for a living. Like there's pictures of him in Getty Images cutting meat, and I'm a vegetarian. So it's like I'm not judgmental about how people live their lives. It's like this is how I live my life. And like if you want to wear your fur coat, that's your business. I'm not going to attack you. But I'm just not pro fur. That's just me. That's why I'm a libertarian. I'm let and let live. I'm very much like that. But I do protect the animals. I can.
Out of curiosity, because you are an animal rights activist, are there any particular organizations you might recommend people to look into if they are turned off by things like PETA that would be a good kind of introduction to it?
That's interesting. There's like different, like smaller, or it depends. Like some people are into animal rescue, so those organizations are very good. Like PETA is very like this is funny. The other day I opened the mail. I barely get mail now because the mail sucks in New York. I don't know if you see that, Gabrielle, but the mail's horrible. I get it like once every 2 days. And they send me and I don't like, they sent me a cat with like experiments in his head, like bleeding. It's like, I was like, I opened this, I'm like, I can't. It's like, you just sent me, I'm on your side. You don't need to send me this. I'm not pro animal experiment. You don't need to send me the minute I wake up to get the mail and like see a cat, a beautiful orange cat with blood coming out of its head. I don't need to see that. I'm trying to think, what are some really good animal rights organizations? I think Esther's Sanctuary is great. It's Esther the Pig, and they bring a lot of awareness, like small little organizations. Farm Sanctuary is great in New York. I'm really into Aleppo the Catman. It's very interesting. So he's in Syria. This is very interesting. He rescues animals that have been war-torn animals and children, and he's helping them. He's educating children with school in the sanctuary, as well as rescuing these cats and dogs and all kinds of animals. And it's like heartbreaking because they're war-torn. They don't have the choice. And these people are just wonderful human beings. It's like humanity is alive and well in like Aleppo. So look at Aleppo the Catman. I follow him on Facebook, and I've been a big advocate for him. Even though I know it's not in America, but I just feel like these are the most innocent beings ever that need help. So it's a great place to, if you really want to see like love in the world, that's where you look at that. In the most war-torn, devastated country you can see. I mean, he'll go into these like blown up buildings and rescue, a dog or a cat. And you see the children learning and petting the cats in school, and it's just like, thank God, it's like love exists in the world, and that's what I like. That's stuff I like a lot. PETA can be very like when I did a TV show in 2007. And it was about making the world a better place, even if you're a total disaster, like I am. And and we dealt with like animal rights and sustainability and all these great things, and like community activism and how to get involved. And PETA they were pushing, like, can you help us with it? And I was like, oh. And I mean, they do some great work, but it's a little bit much. It's too much for some people to take. So I'm not against PETA. I'm just not 100 PETA, but I'm very much into saving as many animals, the humane society, being as humane as possible.
Animals should have the right to vote. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Some of them might make better choices.
I wish they were allowed to vote. I would vote for the animal. If Esther the Pig could vote, if Esther the Pig could run for office, I would vote for her.
Well, Morris the cat ran in '84. I don't know how well he did, but obviously he didn't win.
I mean, we did have a lizard or an iguana run for LNC chair. Yeah. So that's a thing that happened.
I mean, animals are great, and I think they don't have a voice. So as people, we could be their only voice. I obviously we hear that a lot, but we can be their only voice because they don't vote. They can't register, at least legally, yet. So, but
Yeah. Actually,
We're
one of
working
my
on it.
first-
They do
Yeah.
pay taxes. Some of them pay the working animals pay taxes. So
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of my first jobs when I moved to New York City was working street sales, raising money for the Humane Society. And it was, I was working for a company that was contracted out by them. I wasn't like actually like working with them. So I didn't get that, like firsthand experience of working for a nonprofit, but I definitely, there was some sales tactics that we used to, not necessarily cut down the opposition, but, if people say, oh, well, I already donate to the ASPCA, we had like a little thing with facts on it that it is an actual fact that 7% of all the dollars donated to the ASPCA actually go to helping animals.
yeah.
The other 93% goes to Sarah McLachlan commercials and their CEO's pocket and a whole bunch of other things.
There's some really
7
bad
cents to the dollar
bad
actually
nonprofits.
goes to animals.
Right.
Humane Society, it's 93 cents to the dollar. It's all like the exact opposite. Their CEO is independently wealthy already, so he doesn't take a paycheck or like a very large one. They do a lot to keep their costs as low as humanly possible and actually like give to the cause that they claim to be raising money for. And learning about that, and then kind of still learning about some of the negative thing, like there's always shit about every organization. It really like opened my eyes to how like awful the nonprofit industry can be.
Yeah.
I always just assumed, you drop your couple of cents into the
I
jar,
heard
that
Salvation
couple of
Army
cents
really
does a
bad too.
thing.
Really?
Yep.
No.
Their budget. Yeah.
Small organizations, like small local, like
Mhm.
Yeah.
go look in your town where you live and look for the organizations that need help, because I believe those are the ones that don't waste money, and they actually are on the ground helping the animals. And every, and if you want to do more wildlife, that's something you do research on. It depends on what kind of animals you want to help.
Well, nonprofit is basically the same as for profit. If you want your dollars to go towards some like big national overarching thing or international thing that does a whole bunch of stuff, and you want your dollars to be used like really well, you shop at Walmart, or you give to Save the Children or something like that, some huge organization. If you want to help the little guy, you shop at Mimi's Diner and you give to your local rescue. That's it's the same thing, whether they're trying actively claiming to make money or not. They're all making money. It's just whether or not they're selling you a product or selling you an idea and a happy feeling.
The money is closer to, I mean, I'm, economically like a free market person, and you think of with Congress, all this tax revenue goes into federal government, and half the time we don't know everything it's spent on. But I mean, your town council, or New York's a different story, very special town. But being out in, Michigan, if I'm a town council, I pretty much can know how every dollar cent is spent on the roads, the sewage, and everything. And I actually have the ability to influence how that money is spent. So, I mean, the more money is centralized, the less control you have over it.
It's true.
Yeah.
I wish Valerie was still here for part of this conversation, because I think Michigan and New Hampshire are the two states that I've been in over the last couple of years that do government like almost right-ish in some ways. New Hampshire has a very unique setup where they have 400 state representatives for one of the smallest states in the country. It is the most direct representative republic in the world, in world history. There are less people per representative than any other government. And so with that, they're able to, those people also only make $100 a year for working in that state house. They all have full-time jobs. They all are just normal people that like 1 or 2 days a month go meet in a room and make decisions about how the state's going to run. That's how government was originally created. And somehow, some way, New Hampshire was able to like hold on to that like super 17 80 like mentality. But Michigan has a thing where, their ballot initiatives are very, they work very well in a very unique way, where, they're forced to be voted on if they get X amount of signatures, it has to go to a vote before the state house. It has to go to a vote before the state senate, and it has to go to the governor. There is no way to just put it on the bottom of the pile. If you're the Speaker of the House, it's not something that you're allowed to do in Michigan, which I think is cool.
That's great.
I think that a lot of other states are acting kind of like the federal government, where they just kind of pretend the Capitol doesn't exist, and they go about their lives, and as long as they're not knocking on my door, we're good.
Right. I agree. There's a lot of things that we want to change, but the state is in control of it for New York City. And New York State and New York City, if you guys do, it's totally two different worlds. And it's totally two different worlds. So there are some things we want to take some power back. Sometimes we want to give, you want to localize more things. Like I believe like education should be even more localized than it is. We should decolonize essentially education out of the mayor's office down into the local areas, so people could choose and be in control of their own education. So that's something I really would like to do. Essentially, I don't think it's that hard to do because the Board of Education is such a disaster. But as long as the teachers still could keep some of their, the teachers don't feel like they don't get angry at me. But I think if the teachers keep the teachers somewhat happy, the teachers union make sure that they're still working, we can do that. It's not hard to do, because I don't think it should be this like I should be like in charge of where your school board is, and I think it should be elected in each area as well. I don't think it should be like cronyism. That's how cronyism is. Appointments create cronyism. So
are all of you guys based in New York?
I'm in New York, and
I lived in New York until 2019.
Addie is in Pete Mayer's district in Michigan. I am in upstate New York, and then Gabby and Stacy are currently in the city. I will be in Brooklyn, hopefully very soon. Stacy kind of needs me to be an in-person employee.
When is that get together you're talking about in New York?
I'm Staten Island. I'm going to be there, and I'm also being
the gathering. You said.
Oh yeah, do we have a date on the rally?
Doing a rally. We're trying to plan in the next few weeks, literally in the next few weeks. Like
maybe I can get out there. I would love to get out
please,
there.
Yes, please. We're trying to give it where it's enough time, but not too much time in between. So we're trying to get, artists to come down, comedians, libertarians, everybody, just to like make a statement in a safe way and say, look, we're here, we're artists, we're viable people, we're essential to New York. And New York is nothing without its art, really. I believe.
I'll bring my violin. I'll come over.
Yeah! That's awesome. Kim, where are you
and
from?
Then you're gonna stay
Arizona.
in Brooklyn
cool.
and work for us, right, Addie?
Yeah,
please. Maybe we can rent a giant. There's all these apartments in like Bushwick. Like it's like they're like you can get 10 for nothing. It's like let's just like have a campaign house.
I
or
actually
something.
taught second grade in not Bay Ridge. I lived in Bay Ridge. I taught in
you did?
Bensonhurst.
I'm right there. You're a neighbor.
I used to live on 67th and 7th Avenue, and then I taught on P Avenue, and
I'm on X.
99th Street. Yep.
Oh, you're not far from.
And
yeah.
I taught for it was the Success Academy Charter School in the
awesome.
Sethlow Middle School.
Sethlow.
Yep, that's where I taught. Yeah.
You go to Sethlow? That's what they say. Italian goes, you go to Sethlow? I go, no, I go to 303. That's so funny. Wow. Yeah, I did substitute teaching for a while, but not through the Board of Ed. It was interesting. It was through a temp agency, and they paid very little. I mean, very little. And I went to it was basically charter schools because those are considered private schools essentially. But they were
public schools. They're public schools, but they're under they're under a charter, so they operate opposite of the financing of the DOE. And
I felt like some of them were great and some of them were awful. And what was missing was like from going to school in Brooklyn myself was that community. Like it was like people really didn't care about their school. They were like, I go to school and I leave, and I think that's a big deal. So, you want to feel like you're in a community when you're in school. You want to be a part of it. You want to be the band or the sports teams or whatever, or the art, whatever you're interested in. And you make friends. I always brag about my high school. I went to John Dewey, which is one of the best schools. It was an experimental school. I got to choose. It was my classes and my education. So I'm trying to bring that to everybody to some degree. I think we can do that. Basically. So that's so interesting. I didn't know you did teaching. That's in my hood.
Yeah, I like Bensonhurst. I would try to get a place in Bensonhurst, but it's so hard to rent there because it's all families. So.
Oh yeah.
Everyone owns their home over there.
Oh yeah, they do. Well, you can rent
really
little
hard. Yeah, it's really hard to find a rental in Bensonhurst.
You can get like someone's basement. Like there's a lot of like basement to live in. Trust me, I've been looking. I'm like, I get my mother. We're not getting along, and she needs help. And I'm like, but like I want to be close by, but not right on top of her because we might like beat each other up one day. She might beat me actually. So yeah, we get along, but she's like, we had a fight today over shelves. I mean, she put my supplements on a shelf by the garbage, and I flipped out because it was by the garbage. And she's like, it doesn't belong, anyway, it's silly nonsense. But you've been to, you get where we're from. Yeah. And I know Gabrielle.
I lived in the city for 6 years, and I lived, when I was teaching, I lived in Bensonhurst in Brooklyn, and I've lived in Weehawken, Harlem. I've lived in almost every neighborhood.
Oh, wow. Are you from Michigan? Is that where you're from originally?
Yeah, I grew up in Michigan. I came for college, and then I stayed for a while.
And then you went back
to politics. Yeah, I mean, I went back through, like, I worked in Arizona. I've worked in North Carolina and Missouri on campaigns and things like that. So I've been kind of a wanderer since college.
That's awesome.
I feel that hardcore. I actually moved to New York City for the first time for school also. I went to culinary school and dropped out like within a month, and actually because I got the job working for the Humane Society. And I've been bouncing all over the freaking place since then. But you and I dipped out of the city right about the same time. You left like 2 weeks before I went up to New Hampshire.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Just got out of there right in time.
Right in time, right, honestly. When I saw what was going on, it was hard to watch on the news. It was hard to know what was true too, because I talked to a lot of my New Yorker friends, and they're like, "Oh, it's great, it's okay," but then you see these images on TV of business districts getting torched and things like that. And so I did come back in November because I was mainly interested just to see what it was like. And it was dead. It was kind of sad to see that so many things were boarded up, especially in Midtown.
Well, have you been to Manhattan lately? It's horrible. It's like it was sad. Like I can't, every time I walk through the city, I don't go as often as I was going. I was doing a lot of radio, and then they stopped letting us go into the studio where I was doing radio. But I walked through from 35th to the Village. I was like, now the Village, I don't know, McDougal Street is like the hugest street. Like Crashing is based on that. A lot of my so I could just go down to McDougal Street after, or and just like see all my friends, like just pop into a club or a bar and just like all my friends are there, meeting friends, and like it's like dead. It's like sad. It's like going to Cheers and you don't see Norm. It's like that's what it feels like. It feels like it's like not the same,
Yeah. So Kim, where you live in Arizona, I know you're close to Phoenix, right? But you're not like in Phoenix, right?
I live in Peoria, which is a suburb of it's a city into itself, but it's part of the Phoenix megatropolis, like basically that central Phoenix area. It's all very spread out. So I'm appended to it, but I'm under the jurisdiction of Peoria.
Okay. But are you past the as I called it earlier, the red line into kind of that part of the country, or are you still within the mostly liberal kind of city of?
I'd say probably Peoria because it is a semi-upper class suburb, and I think I'm probably one of their poorer residents, honestly. But Peoria is kind of that newer money, and so I would say that has a tendency to veer a little more toward red still. It's in the major Phoenix metropolitan portion that has gone largely blue. And we've had a lot of people move out here. I mean, we get a lot of snowbirds from back east as well. That's a huge part of our economy, actually, is the tourism that comes with snowbirds being residents here and taxpayers here. And then we've had a lot of people come from California. I mean, it's like a big joke here in Arizona is don't California my Arizona, because they end up driving all their prices up over in California.
They're saying the same thing about Florida. Don't New York my Florida.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
New York my Texas.
Yup.
Well, we're actually going down to Florida.
Policy.
We want to get the snowbirds. Are there New York snowbirds in Arizona as well?
Oh yeah, actually I was really surprised because I did actually live in New York for about a year. I wasn't in New York proper. I was in upstate New York, Western actually, in Niagara County, Lockport.
Oh, cool.
So
okay.
that was the big thing that I was really surprised is how many people in that area actually have relationship with Arizona. They've got family who lives out here, or they'll come and visit and winter out here. And honestly, after going through a couple winters there, I get it.
Yeah.
I think that was like the biggest, one of our big jokes here is that there will always be tourists who'll come and they'll want to go hike South Mountain and they won't take sufficient water and they'll do it at 2 PM in the dead of summer and then have to be medevaced off the mountain. That happens all the time. That was the exact reverse for me when I lived in Lockport because it was like 27 degrees. The sky was perfectly clear. And I thought this is a good day to go out for a walk. And no, if it's cloudy, it'll be warmer. I learned what wind chill is.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm that person who was like, I don't know. I'm from Arizona. We wear flip-flops 24/7.
I want to come visit him. I want to go to the. I mean, I always take a trip or a tour, and this is the first year I couldn't get out of New York. I either went to Florida to do a show for a few weeks, or I'd go to California to see my best friends, and now I can't do either. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I remember campaigning
in Arizona. Why not? Right?
Yeah. I campaigned in Arizona, and it was seeing a cactus for the first time was like mind blowing.
I love.
Oh
cactus.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty funny kind of the perception people have of Arizona if they've never visited here because they think everything is basically the Sonoran Desert or actually more like the Mojave, which is like the less attractive desert. But we have so many different climate zones and we have so much different landscape that I feel like sort of this walking tourist where I'm like, come to Arizona. We have 7 different climate zones from low desert to tundra, like we have all these opportunities if you're an outdoorsy type person. Absolutely beautiful. So
Beautiful, yeah. Are you?
That's one of the main things that drew me to the Southwest area and why I spent like 2.5 months looking like Western Colorado for a permanent place of residence, because the variety is really what made me start looking at out west. I for the longest time wanted to remain like within driving distance of my family in upstate New York. So I was looking at, like Virginia or Michigan or Ohio, something close. But I have an uncle that lives in Salem, Oregon, and he started pitching me that area. He was like, you were an hour drive from the desert, the rainforest, the ocean, or a mountain, and you're 2 hours from Seattle.
Yeah.
What else could you want? Like literally.
I miss Seattle. I mean, I used to go there every year to perform, and this year it's like, and Tacoma, and the whole Spokane area, and it's a disaster. It really got hit, between all the political upheaval and everything. It's just like, I want to go back to Pacific Northwest. It's like all my favorite places. It's like. I have to come visit you in Arizona, Kim.
Oh my gosh, please do. The more the merrier. I'm going to overwhelm them with a deluge of libertarians. We'll make this place gold, goddammit.
We can always redo the Free State Project. The Free State Project didn't work out all that well, but we can try again with Arizona.
Well, we'd actually, there has been talk about that. There's a fellow in southern Arizona, so around Sierra Vista, which is near Fort Huachuca on the southern portion of the state. Yeah, he's doing Free State West. I think right now it's just him and a friend, but they're doing it, guys. No, There's a lot of reasons why it would be good to try and do that as a gold county here, because we do have so much of that tendency. It very much is ingrained in our mythology as a state, that pull yourself up by the bootstraps, that sort of true grit, Wild West. Not so much in the major metropolitan areas, definitely an outlying. It's very much like that. So I think it would be pretty easy to convince people to go gold. Assuming, of course, they discard some bigotry, because that's a problem.
Some people would say that they would fit right in. But
yeah.
We're not like
No.
Yeah, I definitely it's been interesting getting into arguments with people on the left on social media over the last couple of days, especially with Jimmy Dore interviewing the member of the Boogaloo Boys from Michigan. There has been a lot of talk online about whether or not libertarians or the Boog or any form of like militia is really on the left side. If this unity thing is real. And so, especially being a proponent of liberty unity and wanting to kind of get the left and the right to work together, I've been trying to reach out and talk to some of these people, and a lot of times I get these comments about like, oh, there's this person, there's this person, there's this person. They call themselves this status within the libertarian movement, and they call themselves libertarians. So that's what you guys are. I was like, can you go look at our actual leaders? Like, look at Spike Cohen, Joe Jorgensen, Larry Sharp, Justin Amash. Go look at the people that actually are the leaders of our movement, because it's none of that.
None of that. No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
And I hope that as we're getting a little bit more popular, a little bit more media attention, and we're having conversations like Jimmy Dore interviewing this man, where people are finally starting to wake up to the fact that what the media has been pushing for years and years and years isn't true. Just because every couple or like 3 or 4 episodes a season of Criminal Minds, the bad guy is a libertarian, doesn't mean we're all psycho murderers.
Oh my
I didn't know that. I thought it was
I didn't know that either.
I just thought it was my ex-boyfriend like a murderer, but that's okay. I'm sorry, the comedy. I haven't done comedy. I'm like, it's like a drug. I need to do it. It's like,
Oh no.
getting kicked off the political stage because I'm going to be so politically incorrect that they're going to be like,
No, bring it back. I think that's something that we're sorely lacking is levity. I mean, that's a really good way of getting the point home without alienating people. So by all means, go for it.
Yeah, it's something I really love doing. And it's like, it's not just doing like jokes, but I think there's so much humor that's gone in politics that we don't really have it the way we should, I think Don he took it the wrong way and it became insulting. And where we can do it where it's not so insulting, but it could be edgy, which is what I like to do.
I always liked when I was a kid, like when I watched like old timey like you think of like House of Burgesses or like a New England like state house. Like I thought it was always like I always loved like the wittiness and like kind of like the political banter that was like almost like a friendly rivalry and but a healthy respect for the opposition. But now it's just been so polarized and everyone's afraid of cancel culture and all this stuff that it's like you just have to literally read a paper word for word and there's no humanness to it at all.
Right. The cancel culture is a bad thing. Like,
oh yeah,
when it comes to comedy.
Let's cancel culture, please.
Yeah.
And the great irony of 2021.
Right. 2020 was like all of the things that we didn't think bad could happen. 2021 so far has kind of been like all of the fun, weird, interesting things that we wish had happened in 2020 that didn't. And now they're like all kind of like coming to pass simultaneously. Not going to encourage violence or insurrection at all, but like what happened at the Capitol was kind of objectively like
it was like Keystone Cops trying to do an insurrection.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened was
that was weird.
Regardless of what actually happened.
It was like Comic-Con meeting militia. That's what happened.
I mean,
it was weird. It was like serious and then really ridiculous at the same time, so it confused people.
Yes.
That's what I
Yeah,
think.
I mean,
It
I
was
definitely,
horrible. I don't agree to violence like that. That's horrible.
definitely
That
like
goes
it's
without
very
saying.
difficult to get a good story of what actually happened there because it's a shit show for sure. But like, if the original story is true and just like a bunch of people got fed up and were like, "Raw, let's go into the Capitol,"
No, I
it
don't think
obviously would be dumb,
Mhm.
but it would be a step in a kind of right direction of like directing your anger at the correct people.
Right. I
Finally,
agree.
for the first time in a very long time, the anger is
Right.
accurately directed at the government. And
Right.
But
that's
right.
Based on what? Based
Not
on
for the right reasons per se, but you're at least focusing
Right.
on the appropriate target of your ire. Yeah,
Right.
that I think that's
I agree.
the whole thing with that. What's so heartbreaking, I mean, notwithstanding the people that were injured and killed, which is just absolutely terrible, is how many people came, and they came in good faith because they sincerely believed what they did and they felt like this was the solution. And they were
Right.
totally flummoxed when when more information came to light. Like, how could I be so wrong? I think
Mhm.
that's astonishing. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
a whole group of people were basically gaslighted. And that's
Yeah.
Horrible.
that's just
That's what I said. It's like
insane.
it's a cult. It's like
Yeah.
finding out that Scientology isn't real. The aliens aren't going to come get you. You know, no offense if you guys are Scientologists, but and then being like, oh my
Oh my
God, I
God,
spent my
no.
entire life with my family.
Yeah.
My kid is in the sea world, whatever the hell, sea urchin, whatever what thing they called, you know, the sea coast, whatever they haven't signed, and it's like, oh my God,
Yeah, the Sea Org.
yeah, sea orchard, whatever. They
Yeah.
destroyed my whole life, and now I have to face that. To face that reality is very, very hard. Like any cult,
Right.
and it wasn't like they were fighting like Black Lives Matter is fighting for you know, if you like the way they do it or not, that's one thing. They could be, you know, they're looting and people aren't agree with that, but they're fighting for civil rights in some way.
Right.
Right.
At least that's what they're, you know, that they're fighting for civil rights, and like if you don't like their methods, that's your. But what you're fighting for a man? Like, why are you fighting for a man? Like, it's not like you're fighting for.
I don't think they're fighting for a man. I think they're fighting for. I mean, I think being from a
An
Rust Belt.
idea of what he's telling them. Like,
Well, being from a Rust Belt state, I mean, what really was happening is during the 8 years of Obama, you had an elitism kind of feel to the government. You had globalism that was championed. You had horrible trade deals that were signed that literally stole jobs and sent them overseas. And it was kind of like the rest of society was like, oh, well, get used to it. Like, this is the new age. And they felt unheard. They felt like the whole country looked at them and thought them as backwards, uneducated people.
Yeah.
And they voted for Trump, not probably because a lot of them didn't really like him, but they wanted someone to be like, yeah, screw you, because you think we're not part of this system. And I think that's what they're very frustrated on. They don't
But the
very
best part about it, Abby, is that
Absolutely.
Trump couldn't give a shit about those people if if they were drowning.
Oh,
he'd pour
for
water
sure.
on their head.
Yeah, he just knew how
And
to
that is,
he knew
I mean,
how to channel that
that's
anger.
the saddest part about it is that he couldn't give. He would pee on them while they're drowning. I mean, not to be vulgar, but that's him.
No, you're absolutely right. Both of you, absolutely. I mean, he tapped into that feeling of being disenfranchised, and then he exploited it, and other people exploited it, and that's the horrible part. It's not the frustration in and of itself that's justified, and it is right that people are wising up to the fact that our federal government, regardless of who is in charge, is not bound by the Constitution, is not beholden to the people. I mean, this is a fact, and certain aspects of the overarching, conspiracy bubble that was the QAnon nonsense had a couple kernels of truth, like the deep state does exist. We are being monitored. I mean, these things are true. It's just that all of that was twisted and perverted and exploited, and then they were left twisting in the wind. And I think that was incredibly cruel.
It was very cruel. And you take people who lost everything. They lost their jobs, their careers, the things they're working for the last 50 years, 20 years, 10 years, whatever, how old they are. And they're in lockdown. They're glued to the computer, reading conspiracy theories. And now, then what? And then the election, and they're told, it's not valid, it's not valid, it's not valid, and then they're going to fight for it, which is the American way. But it wasn't really, it really, and then they were gaslit to do that. So it's like basically it could have been any cult. It could have been the Keith Raniere cult, the Nexus cult, the Nexium cult, whatever it's called, the Nexium. It could have been anything. That's how people get into cults. I mean, there's some truth. Exactly, there's the one inkling of truth, and it becomes a reality. And I feel like that is something that's really sad, actually, for our society. And that's what also they use the pandemic and the lockdown and the lack of people being dependent on the government, so to speak. What are you going to do? You need your unemployment. You need your stimulus. You have no money. What are you going to do? Starve? If you don't, we're not all rich. I was on the road touring for years and years and years and years. Working my butt off as an independent contractor. And so when that gets taken away, so a lot of my, comedy friends are like, fuck this. There's a deep state where, we're going to go deep diving. And like you said, Kim, and we're going to end up following something because we need to believe in something because everything's been taken away. And that's exactly what happened. The disempowerment is we need to re-empower ourselves somehow. I don't know how. I'm trying to figure that out.
And the hard thing about empowerment is like, we've constantly in the story of the United States have turned to, well, if we just give more power to the popular vote or more power to the individual. And that wasn't what, I think libertarianism is harking back to classical liberalism. This idea that not every person needs to directly cast their vote to be represented, but that their interest needs to be represented. And that's the things that the founders really cared about. They set a government up not to give everyone a vote, but to adequately represent the interests of society. And the 17th Amendment is like one of my most unfavorite amendments because it was like, oh, we're going to get more representation if we have our senators directly elected. Well, that did the opposite. It cheapened your vote. It inflated your vote. And it now senators are not tied to their state governments at all. They're just tied to the people.
They don't talk to their constituents, they don't do anything. Yeah.
Right. Our two senators basically get elected by Detroit, and then they represent Detroit in Congress. They don't represent the rest of Michigan.
No. Well, I enjoy my senator all the time, by the way.
I have the exact same issue in upstate. My two senators growing up, it was Chuck Schumer and Hillary Clinton. Now it's Kristen Gillibrand, which is, I guess, a slight improvement. Especially like pre-presidential run, Gillibrand was all right. She was like a blue dog Democrat, really big on balancing the budget, and she was kind of anti-war for a little bit. She had some good stances, and then went like full-blown progressive to try to run for the Democratic nomination and got just destroyed. Because she's a nobody. Nobody had a fucking clue what her name was. She just thought because she replaced Clinton in the Senate, she could replace her on the nomination from the DNC, and that didn't work out so well for her.
No, the Clinton Foundation behind you.
I do not want to be in the mayoral primary right now. They are, I'm glad I'm running libertarian. I want to. Yeah.
One of my neighbors is running for the mayoral primary right now. Aaron Faulkner.
Oh, I met him. He I did the debate, and he went after Mila Wiley, I believe.
Yeah, he's actually. Yeah, I just saw something online. We met because he got our mail. He lived in the next apartment next to me, and wow, like we shared a wall, and he would get my mail, and so he ran for city council once, and now he's running for mayor, and
he's a
He's
if your neighbor gets elected, can you please go to his first city council meeting after he's sworn in, and then during the 2-minute public comment section, demand your mail back?
He always gave it back, but he was in the Liberal Party. I guess there's a Liberal Party in New York that's trying to keep the Democrats honest, trying to be like this third party, and he invited me to one of his campaign events. So I got to meet a bunch of interesting folks, but it was a very grassroots campaign, but I think he qualified for public money one year.
Is he in Brooklyn? He's in Brooklyn, that means, right?
No, he lives in Lower Manhattan. He's running for Chow's, is it Chew or Chow's district?
Okay.
I forget her name.
It's like, it's very interesting. They're all like, he went after, I think that's the guy went after Maya. Yeah. She's like, you get
I think
$200,000
so.
a year for working at the new school. And she was like, well, like,
Yeah,
for
that's
nothing.
him. Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
I mean, one thing had to do it got to, but I was like, she has a job. Like maybe she,
Yeah.
you know,
One
I
thing,
get
one thing,
people.
yeah, one thing I like that he's been doing is something that you're doing, you know, with the whole protesting the closing of businesses, because that's just something that like I don't see a lot of politicians, even in New York, doing when their constituencies are being blown apart, their businesses are literally going under.
It's not like we're spreading the germs. It's not like we're having super spreaders. Like these businesses aren't super spreading. It's like that's the other thing. It's like why I think it's the fact that my gym is open and I can't sit in a cafe.
Yeah.
Me, that just doesn't make sense of it. I get if you have a small little place or like, you know, but it doesn't make sense. These giant restaurants sit down.
Especially these outdoor, indoor dining areas, right? Where they built an area that's basically indoors outside. I mean, none of it makes any sense.
And then you're riding the train on your way home.
Like germ huts. Are these germ huts safe? What
there's no ventilation.
You have these in Kim. I don't know if you've seen New York. We have outdoor germ huts.
Yeah,
these bubbles, these snow globy things, or these wooden boxes outside with heaters, and they're supposed to stop. I mean, is that stopping the spread really? Then air.
What is the purpose of this germ hut? Is it supposed to be like a decontamination chamber or something before you go back out in the elements?
No. I call it a germ hut. It's basically these plastic bubbles. Rather than having indoor dining, they have outdoor dining in tents.
I see. Oh, right. Because then you want to park over it. It's okay. Got it. I gotcha. Yeah. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
Right.
Somehow, inside a thing that's not a building is okay, but inside a building is not okay per CDC.
Right. And the gym is fine because everybody knows, and it's a documented fact, that coronavirus does not exercise. There you go.
Right. Actually, I will actually give some credit to the gyms being open thing, because there is some evidence to be shown that gyms, in the states that have had gyms open for quite some time, have not been, the ones that are still doing contact tracing have not been known to be a spreading point. And I think it's most likely because the people that go to the gym often are not really the people that are getting COVID.
Yeah.
Those are the healthy, young, the people that are working out and doing good things to their body are not getting COVID nearly as much.
At the time, their lungs aren't is like, remember when Chris Cuomo he's like, I do this every day. I move my arm.
Just the one?
He's like showing us. He's like, you keep moving. And, I had friends that had it really bad. And then I had a friend who you think he would be dead from it because he's like overweight with diabetes in his mid-40s. No, he had it for a week and he's fine. I'm like, we were worse sick. I was so sick February, March. Like I was sick for 3 months. I think I definitely had it, but who knows? I don't like to say it. I didn't take the answer. I hate the doctor. Like if you know me, I hate going to the doctor. I go to urgent care. I don't want I'm afraid of doctors. I dated a doctor and I hated him, and that's what happened. So I love the doctor. I'm against doctors. No, I'm not against. I'm being facetious.
Well, that's it. You just tanked your campaign. No, just kidding.
Donate to Stacey Pressman for mayor. All the doctors, I love you. You guys are
I'm definitely looking forward to the next 10 months of Stacey Pressman for mayor, and getting to be the person that Paul calls when something goes viral, and he's like, "Oh my God, Stacey said blank on a live stream." It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be an entertaining, wonderful couple of months.
Things are gonna go.
I hope you win.
Things are going to go viral. I mean, probably not herpes, but things will go viral.
Oh, Jesus.
Sorry.
You heard it here first. He's a super spreader of liberty.
It's funny. Someone went on eBay. This is funny. So, I have, everyone on the team, they're doing Google search, they're looking for news stories. and there was a eBay button. We never made it yet. We haven't, of me, and I'm like, I never made this button. My team didn't make this button. I'm like, oh, it was a nice button actually. So
I love it. You have unauthorized merch.
I know. I feel so, rock star.
Girl, you made it. You made
I
it.
I'm like, you did a good job too. They did a good job. And they wrote beautiful, like libertarian candidate. They just didn't put my name. It's a beautiful libertarian candidate. So maybe, and there's one bid on it. So I don't know who bid on it.
Wow.
It's exciting.
Awesome.
I just hope, I just want to have fun with this. I want to have fun. I think New York needs to be fun again. It's like, I think America needs to have fun again. We can't live like this.
Make America fun again.
Yes. Make the F up. Fun is for F.
That's
And fun.
very close to mafia.
Strangers anymore? I don't know. Mafia.
Mafia.
That's another story.
Make America fun and interesting again.
Yeah.
There we go.
Are people dating? I don't know. I'm afraid to meet some strangers.
I have stepped into the waters during COVID,
Good.
but it's very interesting. I haven't gone on any personal meetings yet, but again, Jimmy's Roadhouse is open, so if anyone wants to be
Can I
liberty
come
loving,
over?
yeah. So I literally told this guy, he was like, "Where do we go?" I was like, "If you're liberty loving, we can go to Jimmy's Roadhouse."
I want to go to Jimmy's Roadhouse.
I feel
Jimmy,
like if he's not willing to go to Jimmy's Roadhouse with you, he is not worthy of
There you
dating you.
Yeah, that's like the one question.
show me
Everything
that
else
gold.
after that.
There we go.
Jimmy's Roadhouse sounds a lot of fun. I didn't watch the comedy show at Jimmy's Roadhouse.
You got to come to Jimmy's Roadhouse. The guy, the owner's wonderful, and I sipped the Coke because he can't have alcohol anymore. It was honestly, it was great.
I could do a nice Diet Coke. Like if I don't drink, I'm doing Diet Coke. That's my thing.
Yeah. Food was amazing, but it just felt good to kind of stand up and say I have liberty and I can still use it, and the government's not going to come. We still live in a great country where the government did not come in, haul us off out of the jail because we were exercising our right to be in public.
Right.
It's
exactly.
Yeah. And all businesses could do this if they weren't afraid. It just shows you in our country that when push comes to shove, the government isn't autocratic as like China or some other place.
And I think that a business should be an example. Like if they could open and be safe, and they should be an example for the rest of the businesses. We have to start one and then two, and I would be, as a mayor, I'm not going to ever mandate you have to do this, you have to do that. But I would love to be an assistant to helping these businesses open safely. If I wouldn't mind the business having an HVAC fund where people could have air. I can't see how that would be a bad thing. That'd make me feel like a part of that. The city. I mean, if the money goes anywhere, I believe the money should go to the people. We do pay taxes. You never go wrong with investing in people, ever. People need to be invested in more than anything. Right. Not foreign wars, not nonsense. But
unions.
Union. Well, I'm in a union. I'm in SAG-AFTRA, and we are separate. We do our own thing. Let me take care of the union has to do. The union got to do them. And
private unions are different than public unions by
far.
I'm
in a private union.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But to your topic, Stacey, Gabby kind of had this whole thing a little bit easy. I feel you of the struggling of trying to find places to go out. But, luckiest person in Queens, Eric Cordova, just had got to spend the whole time with Gabby.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a couple of friends. Actually, one of my very good friends, or two of my very good friends, got married February 1st of 2020.
Nice.
So and they live in downtown Brooklyn, right into lockdown. The second they got back from Texas from the wedding, they were already almost kind of sort of locked down. They had to quarantine as soon as they got back from the wedding, and then lockdown for the first 6 months of their marriage. So I'm curious what it was like to be kind of locked down permanently with the same person, because I know I was not at all like that.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. One of my coworkers got married March 1st of 2020.
Yikes.
And I remember my boss and I, we decorated her office with pictures and flowers and all sorts of things. And it stayed like that for the last 10 months. And finally, my coworker went into her office to start taking things down and the flowers had wilted and she took those. But as far as marriage, the last 10 months in quarantine, we celebrated our first anniversary in August, and it felt like celebrating our 5th or 10th, or like time is just, yeah, I mean, but no, it's been great. We adopted a kitten in August, September.
I need a kitten so bad. Oh.
He's been keeping us company. Yeah.
That's nice. It's hard to lock down with somebody. I've let down my mother. Then I moved for 3 months to Airbnb for 3. Oh,
this is Theodore. I named him Theodore because of his little mustache. I know you don't want to be carried right now. He has a little mustache.
Theodore is camera shy.
His little Theodore Roosevelt of the family. Yeah.
Well, ladies, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, or the people watching, as it is 11 p.m. for us here on the East Coast. But I want to thank you all for coming onto the show. Thank you guys for watching. We had a couple of questions here at the end that I wasn't able to get to, but actually both of them were covered in the person's episodes last week. So there was a question for Stacy and Kim that both were answered in the episode. So you guys can go back and watch those because they're awesome episodes. And like all of these guys are great. And I look forward to having you all back on the show. If you want to help support what we're doing here, you can send us some dollars on Cash App or Patreon, both at Fight for Liberty, and we would greatly appreciate that because StreamYard is not free.
Right.
right.
Thank you for having me on. And ladies, it was so nice to meet and visit with you.
I know. Thank you.
Yes,
I've had it forever. Addie, Gabrielle, I've met Gabrielle before. I'm going to see you in a few weeks, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Meeting you.
I'll be in New York. I'll make my way out there.
I hope to visit you in Arizona. And David, I'll see you soon.
I will be there.
We're gonna have a rally. We're gonna have a great time campaigning. And are you running for office too, Addie? Are you running right now?
I not right now, but I've been encouraged before.
Oh, so. Please do it. Do it.
I was at a Chelsea Gabbard
has...
event, and I got out, and there's a black SUV, and I had my whole political, outfit on, and I think a few people thought I was a candidate. So.
That's awesome. Well,
once you get a couple of big L's elected as a campaign manager or policy director, then we can talk about a Senate run or something like that.
2021, the year for Big L.
For sure.
Oh, let's go gold.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much again for watching, and thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next time.
Yep. Have a great one. Thanks.